In this part, I talk with Sophia Retchin from episode 3, who interned at multiple alternative protein organizations. I am so delighted to have you back on the show, Sophia. It has been way too long.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. It's going to be a fun episode.
Yeah, I know a lot has changed since we spoke a little over 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think my life has done a 360 degrees turn over the past 3 years. So, yeah, a lot to talk about.
Yeah, all right. Well, in that case, let's just dive right in. And what have you really been up to since we last spoke 3 years ago?
About 3 years ago, I was still in my senior year of college, and I had started a plant-based meat startup. But then by the end of that senior year, I just was facing major burnout and realized that wasn't the path that I wanted to be on. So essentially, by the end of senior year, I met my current fiance as well, who's from Israel. And we fell in love, and I moved to Israel within a couple of months of graduating university and had lived in Israel a couple of summers before doing internships in food tech. So I knew I would land my feet somewhere and ended up organizing Israel's largest food tech conference when I first got to Israel. And since then have been working at Redefine Meat as a business development manager for about 2.5 years now, working on bringing Redefine to different markets across the world.
Wow, yeah, that is quite a dramatic shift.
Yeah, definitely. It's been extremely exciting and challenging and just a completely different lifestyle living in Israel the past 2.5 years compared to North Carolina, where I went to school and grew up. It's been really cool being a part of the food tech community here. I think we have the strongest food tech community out of anywhere in the world after the Bay Area. So it's really cool being around all these other like-minded people. And I've been organizing food hack events as well on the side for the food tech community here in Israel. But at Redefine Meat, it's been really great. And I've been working on bringing Redefine Meat to Japan as well as the United States and supporting our sales teams there and working on different interesting business development opportunities. So it's been an exciting past few years.
Yeah, that sounds like quite a lot. I definitely agree that Israel is quite the hub for the alternative protein space as well.
Yeah, so I actually work in this little town called Rehovot outside of Tel Aviv, and it's kind of like the biotech hub of Israel. And if you walk down the street, just a few blocks, you'll see the signs of so many different startups in food tech that you'll recognize. We don't all hang out and get lunch or anything, but it's fun to at least just see the signs and know everyone's kind of in the same area.
Right, right. All right, so sounds like it's a little bit of a different role from some of your previous internship roles. So, how do you feel that this role is different compared to those previous roles?
Yeah, so I would say my past internship roles and volunteer roles with GFI were really focused either around marketing with cultivated meat startups, so doing maybe customer research and marketing for essentially products that weren't on the market yet, and for the startup as a whole versus right now, Redefine Me is selling products in over a dozen countries. So it's just a very different company feel and different kind of work when we're actually obviously selling a lot of product in many different markets. And then I was also doing a lot of community building work with GFI, organizing community events within the alt protein ecosystem in North Carolina. And I also was building a course back then and doing marketing around that, getting the word out and getting professor support. And so that was also a huge part of my college experience. And now my professional experience after college has been much more focused around being integrated into the sales infrastructure of the company. So I'm working directly with our sales team, supporting them with different presentations that they need at different sales tools that they need, as well as working on different business development initiatives myself, organizing our booths at trade shows and doing sales at those trade shows, and being on top of the customer funnel and really pushing forward the sales within the company versus being more a part of the marketing aspects of the company. It's been a great change, and also it's been exciting to have some travel opportunities to go to Japan, leading our sales in the Japanese market as well as in the US, working with our distributor partners in both countries. So it's been a really exciting role and exciting to be part of a company that's really more in the growth stage. I think we have around 150 employees. So it's still considered a startup, but it's not really a startup anymore with a full company infrastructure and this many employees and markets that we're in. So it's been still the startup mindset, working in a lean team and working fast and being in that mindset, but just it's a different feel and a different sort of company infrastructure with having so many departments and full-blown teams to support all of the different aspects of the company.
Right, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I still wear a lot of different hats in my role, which I like because I think business development in general, you wear a lot of different hats and you're working with so many different departments all the time. It's not really siloed like when I was doing some marketing roles, it's more siloed in just that department. So I really like that aspect, and it definitely gives the company more of a startup feel for me because I have all those different hats on.
Ah, okay, I see. Imagine that being a little bit of a different role for you and being more of a full-time job than a previous internship. I imagine there's a lot of lessons that you've learned through this experience. So can you elaborate on some of those?
My number one realization working at Redefine is just fully, deeply understanding how difficult it is to sell plant-based meat. I think going into the role and going into the industry in general after college, I was a bit naive potentially, and definitely had a rose-colored glasses perspective of what was going to happen in the alt protein industry, very optimistic. I'm still optimistic, but I now fully realize how difficult it is to make a sale, whether that's at an independent restaurant where you're facing criticism from chefs who just have this kind of cultural bias against plant-based meat sometimes and don't see it as an ingredient they want to have on their menu, to having the difficulty of working with caterers who have ESG goals that they want to meet, but don't find the plant-based meats tasty enough, or we can't meet their pricing goals that they need to meet. So I think going into this role, I just thought that it would be exponential growth, both within our company and within the industry as a whole over these past few years from the peak, I would say, of the alt protein hype in 2021, now in 2025, just a lot has changed. I think in general, with my perspective, and I think a lot of people's perspective of the growth potential of the industry in the short term.
Yeah, I'd say in your defense, the industry has changed a lot since 3 years ago, where there was, I think, a lot of hype at the time, and now that's waned off a little bit.
Definitely. There was a lot of hype at the time in terms of investment, but also in terms of chefs and restaurant owners and culinary decision makers being more open to alternative proteins. And I think there's just a bit more skepticism in terms of trialing a plant-based protein on the menu these days. So thankfully, Redefine, we have, I think, the tastiest all protein products on the market. We have an amazing plant-based meat range with steaks and pulled beef and pulled pork, as well as the typical ground and burger products. So we're able to fit into a lot of different restaurant segments and food service segments. And we have the quality to back up our claims, but it still is difficult, especially just getting over that initial perception and breaking through that barrier.
Right, yeah, I totally understand that. And I think that the fact that you guys are working on more, I'll say, whole muscle products such as steak, I think that really is something that wasn't really part of the industry in the early days and maybe makes it a little more novel. Like, oh, this is something we haven't seen before yet. And I think maybe that can help revamp some of the excitement that there was in those early days.
Definitely. It's really been able to bring our plant-based meat to places that's never gone before. So it's really exciting just to have the opportunity to be speaking with very premium restaurant outlets that have never had plant-based meat on the menu and had never really thought about it until they saw our steak. So it's definitely a big opportunity.
Awesome. Yeah, well, it's really exciting. I wish you all the best for that. Speaking of opportunities, where do you see yourself in the future?
So, in the short term, I see myself staying in Israel for at least a couple more years and growing in my role with Redefine, and especially with the growth that we're excited to see in the US market and leading those initiatives. In the long term, I'm thinking maybe going into policy potentially, because right now I think as an industry we can all agree that the work the startups are doing is really incredible and it's the backbone of the industry, but we're not going to get to the places we want to go, like where solar panels have gone or the cost of electric vehicles dropping without more government funding. And I'm really interested in getting more involved in that sort of work within the all protein field.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think there's a lot of impact to be had in the policy space for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's one of the biggest potential areas of impact in the all protein field. And there's been a lot of great work that's been going on with it over the past few years with nonprofits, but I think it is a gap in the field. And there's been a lot of focus on the private sector, and there could be many more initiatives in the public sector, and a lot more have been popping up over the past year or so, which has been exciting to see.
Yeah, I've heard that there's been more government interest in funding alternative proteins, which is great.
Yeah, especially with the focus on alternative proteins as food security and national security and part of our defense. I think it's going to be bigger and bigger for sure.
Absolutely. All right, that was all the questions I had. Thank you, Sophia, for coming on the show again, and it was so awesome to speak with you again.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, it was fun being on the show.
Hope you enjoyed your time at Redefine Meat and wish you and everyone else there all the best.
Thanks. And you too.